Are you an ambitious, driven entrepreneur starting to feel overwhelmed, maybe a little trapped by your business? Well, I have a solution for you. It is the 5-day Bottleneck to Breakthrough Challenge, where in an hour a day, we will give you the roadmap, the blueprint, the treasure map to where you can find yourself with more free time, more freedom of money, and a more valuable business. Hope to see you soon. www.bottlenecktobreakthrough.com. Well, hello and welcome to The Real Bottom Line, the podcast for entrepreneurs featuring entrepreneurs. Today, we are going to talk about artificial intelligence, AI. It is the thing that is taking over the world, and from an entrepreneur's perspective, we're trying to look at it from all angles. Today, the angle is cybersecurity and data privacy. So my guest is Darryl Cresswell of MyDWare, a company that provides expert cybersecurity and IT services. And Darryl speaks regularly on this subject, so he is the perfect guy to give us some insight of what we need to be thinking about as we start looking at artificial intelligence in our business. Welcome, Darryl.
Well, thank you for having me, Wendy.
I'm super excited about this conversation. But let's start up at the 30,000-foot view. It seems like our data is more vulnerable than ever. However, sometimes I think as small business owners, we think maybe we're just too small for these guys to think about or to come after us. Like, what is the biggest thing that we need to be thinking about as small and medium-sized business owners about cybersecurity in particular and data privacy?
Well, that's a good question. It's a common misconception that I hear more often than I would like to hear. A lot of people think that, yes, we're too small. We don't have anything of value. Nobody would want what we have. But at the end of the day, it's really about what the low-hanging fruit is and where a quick payday can come from. And so if breaching that type of information is easy and successful on a small business and the payout is lucrative, I mean, it's easy money for them. So at the it's really not about the size of your company. It's about the data, the exposure, and what they can use, how they can leverage that for some type of payout, whether it be, threatening to release that data about your customers or your payroll or your employees and sell that on the dark web, or if it's to literally hold your machines hostage with ransomware. The size of the company doesn't matter. We see this happen to companies that are very small. We see this happen to companies that are very large, and we see it with companies with everything in between. So yes, that is a very common misconception.
And I know that sometimes people use hardware as a way, but I think in the past, Darryl, you and I've talked about the importance of hardware, software, and constant monitoring. Can you speak to that just a little?
As it pertains to AI and your data, if you're asking, like hardware, we're probably talking about firewalls. Right? Hardware firewalls and AI, does that protect you? Does that protect your data from being leaked? That's another misconception that people have, but not just with AI. They have that about their IT systems as well. They think they've got antivirus, they've got firewall, they're protected. Yet routinely we see every time that there's an incident that's taken place and a breach has happened or there's been ransomware deployed, nearly all of these companies had antivirus and firewall in place, yet they still got hit. So that's one side of the coin. When we're talking about AI specifically, and if we're thinking about the fact that we've got firewalls, we've got AI, we've got antivirus, and we've got these protections in place. Does that protect AI from, any type of our data being breached? And the fact of the matter is it doesn't, because the AI that you're interacting with doesn't exist on your network behind your firewall. It exists in the cloud. It's happening on a different network, on a different system, and you're literally putting your information into that. You're going on, you're logging on to, Chat GPT is a very popular one. There's others. And you're typing into there, you're giving it information about a project that you're working on or a question that you have, and you're literally taking that out of your network, your keyboard, your computer, and you're placing that into the cloud AI. So that's where that data then resides. So the question becomes, what's being done with that data? Who's the owner of that data at that point? And what is it being used for? Is it being kept siloed under your account in your control, or is it being used to train the public model that's used by everybody? And that's really where the security side of things come into play. And your firewall has your hardware firewall and your hardware devices on your network don't have any chance of stopping that type of data because you're literally typing or pasting it into this website usually.
Oh, that's fascinating. I noticed on for social media in particular, like on Facebook and Instagram, it seems like Meta, the owner of those places, is starting to gather some data there through their prompts. I notice, I think it's in beta right now, Darryl, like they're trying some stuff out. What's going on with that stuff?
Yeah, certainly a company like Meta wouldn't want to be left behind the ball on something like AI and the proliferation of it that we're seeing. This is something that I've started to notice even on my own personal devices. If I were to open Instagram or I were to open WhatsApp or I were to open any of these type of Meta apps or my kids, anything like this, there's the AI prompt is now there on the app. And this wasn't a
Mm,
scenario where you opened the app one day and it said, "Hey, would you like us to add this new feature?" It just was there. It was
yeah.
just turned on. It's not something that anyone necessarily has to consent into. I'm sure it's well covered in their legal documents that they have online in terms of use, but it's a free service at the end of the day. You're not paying to use those services, not with money anyways. You are paying with your data, you are paying with your privacy. Nothing, there's no such thing as a free lunch. You pay
Yeah.
with your data and your information, or you pay with your money. um, and so that is something that pretty much everybody's starting to see that pop up on their social media, this new AI capabilities and prompts, whether they asked for it or not, it's there.
And what are some of the use cases? I think you were chatting before with me about how I would be surprised what some people pump into those search engines. Do you have some stories about what people are doing there, or some have been?
It's amazing. There's two types of people that I'm seeing as it comes to AI. You've got the completely risk adverse people who are like, I'm not putting anything into that. I'm not using that. I don't trust that. This is going to come and take over humans and it's going to dominate the world and it's going to be like the Terminator movie. And so there's those types of people. And the unfortunate thing is for those type of people is that they're going to very, very, very quickly get left behind if they don't
Mm,
adapt and learn how to use AI in a secure way. This technology is not going anywhere. This is not a fad that we're going through. This is not a phase. This is not a novelty thing. This is here to stay, and it's only going to get better, and it's only going to advance further, and we're at the early stages of it, right? 12
mm.
months ago, 18 months ago, nobody was really talking about AI. Nobody was really using it or thinking about how they could use it in their business. So for the people that are on that side of the fence, I just caution that if you don't expose yourself and your business to it, you're going to get left behind. Your competitors are going to use it. They're probably already using it, and if you just won't be able to compete unless you have some capability of using it
Mm.
correctly. On the other side of the coin, we've got the people who are like, AI is fantastic. It can make presentations for me. It can write emails for me, save me so much time. These people are finding a ton of efficiencies by using AI, and they're getting more hours in their day, and they're getting more productivity and they're really, really able to capitalize on what AI brings. And that's the really good use case for AI. However, you have to look at what AI service you're using. Are you using something that is a public AI that is free and available to everyone? Or are you using something that is private and that is paid and that is siloed just to you? And the reason why I say that is I've seen people put into AI everything from their kids' names, date of births, um, birthday party arrangements, like all of this information. Go write me an invite that I can send out to, John, Sally, and Joe. Right now, you've just told the AI when your kid's birthday is, where you're going, who your friends are. Like all of this information going into a public model is probably not the best thing in the world, because where's that information being saved? Who's going to have access to it at a later date, and what can it be used for? We see other things with public. I've seen people do this where they will take their client information and they will put it into the AI and ask the AI to write a proposal for the client. This is a fantastic use case for AI because it's saving you so much time. It's writing the entire framework,
Yeah.
it's developing the text, and then you just have to go in and edit it, right? And make the tweaks. Huge operational efficiencies can be found with that. The problem is they're not putting it into a private AI that's siloed just to their company. They're putting it into a public AI, which can be used for anything, training the model to get better. But again, my concern with that is where is that information being saved, for how long, who has access to it now, and who will have access to it in the future?
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing that I think we just assume we can type anything in. We don't necessarily think about how that information may be used beyond our application.
Right. And so
Yeah.
that's why there's a good argument could be made that there's two types of AIs for two different types of purposes, right? If you want to find out how to make the greatest grilled cheese sandwich in the world, who cares if you're using a public,
Yeah.
AI and it tells you need this much butter and this is the best kind of cheese? Who cares, right? What are they really going to learn? That you like grilled cheese? Fantastic. Like there's no real harm that can come from that. But there is a different side of that when you're using it for business, where you do want to have your data in there. You do want to have your pricing information. You do want to have your client information. You do want to have all of that data repository so that the AI can be effective. That's where I caution, where are you putting that and what service are you using for that?
The free stuff, right?
Correct.
Like, as often you said, that it's nothing's free. It's just that we're paying with our data and our information about all our preferences and things like that.
Right. And using the AIs, like, Meta doesn't have the greatest reputation for, user privacy. And there's countless examples of this over time, not picking on Meta specifically. They're just one that everybody knows about, right? It's not, they don't have a reputation for that type of privacy and protection. They have the
Mm,
reputation of let's get as many data points as we can on as many people as we can. And how do we monetize that? That's
yeah.
the concern with that.
I think the monetization piece is important to understand what their goals are overall type of thing.
At the end of the day, they're a business, right? They need to make
Hmm.
money. They're providing the service for, financially free, and I'm using air quotes there. They have to make money to stay in business, and that data is how they do it.
Mm. So if I were a business owner, which I am actually, and I hear about this brand new AI chatbot or something that's going to just rock my world, change everything. Could you give me like almost like the top three practices I could use as almost like filters or screens to decide what are the security implications, what are the data implications, and how do I decide if it's worth it?
The first thing that I would say is if it's free, you're paying with your data, almost guaranteed, right? And so that's the first thing that you're going to look at. And if the type of work that you're doing with that particular thing is, the grilled cheese sandwich example, who cares, right? Maybe you're okay with that. But if you're using AI to generate confidential or private information that maybe is not the greatest thing for somebody to have access to, should it ever be leaked or breached, you really want to look at what is that service that you're using. Even if it's a paid service, that doesn't mean that it's siloed to you. You want to
Mm.
take a look at what are they doing with that information, who has access to it. If you close your account, does that data remain as part of the training for the AI for the model, or do they forget you? If they forget you and you're paying for that service, that's great. That's what you want. You don't want it to be on the internet for forever, and you don't want the AI to have access to it forever. So I think those are kind of two of the really, really big things that you want to look for. The other thing is, you want to look at like the company of the AI that you're using. Is it reputable? Or like, are you using a company like Microsoft? Are you using a company like OpenAI? Or are you using some new company that's just new to the market, hasn't been established, doesn't, do you know if
Yeah.
they're new and they're not reputable, who knows what's going to happen with that and the information that you're putting into it. So I just caution when using new startup services like that to really read the terms of services. What country is the data going into? Because that might be another implication as well. If you're in financial services or you're in aerospace, and some of the contracts that you have with your clients may stipulate that that data can't leave your home country. This is huge in the US, and it's certainly here in Canada as well. And so if you're using an AI that is running on servers in another country, you may be violating your agreements or your the compliances that your organization needs to uphold.
Do most terms and services identify where data is held and things of that nature?
They should, yes. The problem with a lot of the terms and services that you're going to see online is they're very legal speak. They're crafty, and they're written by lawyers. And for the average person to go and take a look at that and decipher that and understanding it's mind-boggling. You have to be a lawyer to understand it. And so if you're going to use something like this in your business and you do have these compliance and regulations that you need to uphold, and be compliant to, you really want to probably have your legal team review that before you start using a service like that. Not only that, that needs to be a company policy, right? Because you, as the owner, if you know that and you're doing that, what if your employees aren't? What if they're just going and throwing this information into the first free AI that they find? That, this has to be a company wide policy that everybody is adhering to.
Are there examples of AI that would be in your network that would pose potential security risks that we need to be considering?
Um, in your network, in what regard?
I guess this is just showing how where my level of technological speak is. But if it's not in the cloud and I'm using something and some of it's living in my network, is there any examples of AI that does that, or is almost all of it in the cloud at this point?
Well, AI takes a ton of resources to do what it does. It needs a
Mm.
lot of processing power. It needs a lot of CPU, a lot of RAM, a lot of internet, it needs a lot of resources to do what it does. And so that you're seeing those in the cloud. Certainly there's going to be devices that have some level of AI or processing that they can do on the network, but the really, really common ones are cloud-based. That's why you're seeing them on your mobile apps. That's why you're seeing them in your Microsoft 365 and other applications, because that power to run that system really would be very difficult to try to replicate in your
Mm.
office and buy that type of equipment.
Oh, that's fascinating. What haven't I asked you about this subject, Darryl, that you would like to kind of throw some light on for us today?
There are cloud applications that a lot of businesses are using right now that they already have a ton of their data in. So some two really popular ones that come to mind are Microsoft 365, certainly. Almost every business is using that at this point. And then Google as well.
Mhm.
These platforms already have all of your data in it. They have your client data, they have your pricing, they have your contracts. These platforms already have that data in there, in that cloud, and accessible in there. These platforms also have their own AI that you can leverage. And so an argument can be made of your data is already there. It's already confidential. You're already paying for those services. Those are an example of a paid service, certainly with Microsoft specifically. That data is siloed to you and it's not being used to train the model or to gain access to other people who use the service. So if your data is already there and the AI capabilities are already there in that platform, do you really need to bring in a third AI website platform, whatever, into the mix? Because now instead of having your information in one spot, which is capable of being breached, now it's maybe in two spots, maybe it's in three spots, maybe it's in four spots, depending on how many AIs that you're using. Again, if these AIs that you're using are the grilled cheese example, who cares? But the main bread and butter of where your private data resides, if it's Google or if it's Microsoft, I would want to start leveraging that AI there first, since my data is already there.
Wow. And I think that they may not have been doing as good a job at maybe publicizing because you've already got it. So it's not necessarily, I don't know, as sexy as ChatGPT, but they have the capabilities and the ability that you could use it. And I think the key thing there is that it stays within your organizations. So you own that data. It's not being used for other purposes. They've already monetized it, so they're not trying to monetize it further, that
Right.
type of thing.
Absolutely. That's a big differentiator and takeaway to consider as a business owner when it comes to AI. Absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Darryl, as always, you always have so much wisdom. I mean, I could talk to you about this stuff for hours, but I really wanted to thank you for coming in today and having this conversation. AI, cybersecurity, and mental health in entrepreneurs are kind of my two favorite subjects that I don't think get talked about enough. So I try and highlight them here. So, Darryl, how can people reach out and get in touch with you if they want to talk more about how to, um, make their organization more secure from a cyber perspective?
Certainly, can reach out to me anytime through our websites, mydware.com, mydware.com. I release a ton of content on LinkedIn, on our blog. So there's tons of free resources that I put out there if you don't want to talk in person. But if security is your concern for your company, AI is something that you're looking to leverage, I'm always happy to talk to people about that. And I appreciate the good work that you're doing here, Wendy, is always putting out the word and raising awareness as you always do. We need more people doing this.
Oh, well, thank you, Darryl. And I think that the real bottom line here is, from AI and privacy and security perspective, is differentiating the grilled cheese recipe from your business purposes. Thanks so much, Darryl.
Thanks, Wendy.